Okay, now on this example, let me get rid of this here. On this example, we're going to have some negative exponents to deal with. If you read the post that I posted in the introduction to this section, I talked about simplifying how you look at negative exponents that are in these fractions. It's really a very simple process. It's just a matter of moving your terms from the top of a fraction to the bottom of a fraction, or from the bottom to the top, depending on where it needs to go, if it needs to be moved at all. A term needs to be moved if it has a negative exponent. We can't evaluate negative exponents, so we need to relocate it in order to make it positive. It's just a rule of math that we have to do. So let's look at our 6 to the negative 5 and our 6 to the negative 2 and start doing some relocating. I'm only going to work with the 6's, and then I'll work with the x's, and then I'll work with the y's. My 6 to the negative 5 meets my criteria. I have a negative exponent. I need to move it down to the bottom of my fraction. Remember, there are only two places in a fraction. There is a top and there is a bottom. So if you see a negative exponent, it needs to relocate. So you only have two choices. If it's in the bottom, it has to go to the top. If it's in the top, it has to go to the bottom. When it makes that move, the exponent becomes a positive one, which is what we want. Now the 6 to the negative 2 is also going to move, and it's going to become positive. Now let's do our x's. Our x to the negative 1 needs to relocate to the bottom and become x to the positive 1. Our x to the negative 4 needs to relocate to the top and become positive 4. Our y's. Y squared is already a positive exponent, so it's not going to go anywhere. And our y to the 4th is also already positive, so it's not going to go anywhere. Now it's just a matter of simplifying. Now remember, when I did that last example, I showed you to think about how many of each thing was lined up on the fraction bar so that you could cancel things out. Well, I'm going to look at my 6's. Remember, this represents two 6's sitting out here. And this represents 5 6's. I'm not going to list them all out here. But two of the 6's are going to cancel two of the 6's down here. And that's going to leave me with 3 6's in the bottom. So that's where I'm going to write that. And nothing but a 1 up there. This 1x is going to cancel one of these x's and leave me with 3 in the top. Because I started out with more in the top, that's where they're going to be left. How about my y's? There's 4 sitting down here, 2 sitting up here. If you visualize that, you can think about crossing out 2 of them here and 2 of them here, but I still have 2 left over, and they're down here because that's where I had the most to begin with. That's where they're going to be left over. Now, again, simplify it. Get rid of that 1. We don't write 1's in algebra very often. And you're all done. It was just a matter of relocating terms that had negative exponents so that they would no longer be negative. Now, the final step here, I probably shouldn't have circled it yet, will be to evaluate the 6 cubed. We don't want to leave it at 6 cubed. When we actually have an integer that can be evaluated, go ahead and do your exponents, work them out. 6 times 6 times 6 gives me 216. Y squared. And now I can circle it. Now I'm actually done my problem. Alright, in the next problem that I show you, I will show you a little bit more complicated problem with the negative exponents, but again, you'll see it's going to be very, very simple.